birthday. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Seeking Excellence podcast. This is another special episode with one of my favorite human beings, Noble Gibbens. Noble, how we doing?
Hey, is the Pope Catholic, bro?
Last time I checked.
Bro.
At least mostly.
Hey, I'm in fuego, man. That's on fire for those who don't habla, bro. I'm doing amazing, dude.
That is great to hear, man. This is awesome. It's great to have you back. You know, I have kind of a running list of people I want to podcast with at least annually. And so I'm really glad that we got to sneak this one in at the end of 2021 since we recorded together last year too.
Yes, that's right. Dude, I'm stoked, bro. I'm stoked. Not like Colorado stoked, but I'm stoked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying for sure. Yeah, we do have a shortage of dispensaries in Glendale, Colorado.
Hey. Gas and grass, baby. You know what I'm
saying? You are wild. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. So Noble, you are one of our go-to guys. You know, we have our 7 pillars of excellence, and in that emotional pillar, you know, in the EQ pillar, you are my main resource that I point people to. So it's great to have you on here and be able to dive into some of that today.
Dude, well, thank you, man. Thanks for having me again. I totally dig what you're doing with Seeking Excellence. I love it. Love your vision. Love your, all that you're doing, man. I totally appreciate you. Appreciate your friendship. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so does Big NC sharpen Big Poppy. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's what it says, right? I don't know what translation that is.
Hey, that's the NIV. That's Noble's international version.
Oh my gosh. Something else. That's incredible. Well, very good. So, I mean, obviously we go back 5 years. We had a lot of interesting experiences together over those 5 years, that half a decade. But we're both thriving now on the other side of some very emotional, manipulative behaviors and things like that we all experience. Maybe we'll get into some of that later. But now you've been on this journey for this last few years of since you started EQ for Entrepreneurs, which you've now rebranded in the EQ Gangster. And within that, you've got the EQ Mafia and all that stuff. So would love just an update on kind of how that all went and kind of your brief story. I know you did a podcast on it, on the rebranding, but just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so started out as EQ for Entrepreneurs. I want to start a podcast because I've been emotionally dysfunctional my whole life, emotionally clueless my whole life, emotionally needy, emotionally codependent, toxic positivity, emotionally needy, all these different things, emotional dysfunctions, people pleaser addict. And then boom, the story goes, right? Yelled at my wife a few times, went to counseling. The counselor's like, dude, let me introduce you to 2 revolutionary new concepts, feelings and emotions. I'm like, did you just cuss me out? I'm about to throat punch you. Like, what are you talking about? The F word, right? Feelings. And so 2 years of intentional emotional fitness program, all these different areas of my life started to change for the better, tangibly. Not like, let's go swimming in essential oils and, inhaling Skittle farts and stuff and riding on, rainbow unicorns. But like actual transformation, my faith with God started to change. My marriage started to change. My parenting started to, right, all these different areas. So I said, hey, babe, I need to start a podcast, sharing my lessons learned because of this transformation that God's doing in my life. Because I can't be the only emotionally clueless guy out there, right? There's got to be other nobles out there. Started the podcast, started initially branded EQ for Entrepreneurs. And then all of a sudden started working with people that were not necessarily just entrepreneurs because we had started a course teaching emotional intelligence. And so we had, some employees, some entrepreneurs, some executives, some military leaders. And so I asked a buddy of mine, a guy named Alika Freitas, who started a company called Fanfare. He's kind of a branding expert. And I said, Alika, you've been following my journey now from the jump. What is unique or different about me in this space? Can you give me some feedback with branding and stuff? Because not everyone that we work with are entrepreneurs. And he said, Noble, he asked me one question, man, and it kind of unlocked everything. He's like, how many big, bald, bearded, tattooed former Army Rangers are teaching emotional intelligence? And I said, probably not too many. He said, dude, you're the gangster of EQ. You're the EQ Gangster. And that was it, man. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
It would be Alika.
Right. That's right. Big Alika. Yep. Right. And so from that, people, our course, we've never really been super intentional or good at marketing. We just have not put a bunch of time into marketing. It's all been into kind of content creation and, in true entrepreneurship fashion, right? Our record, my wife and I's record, kind of how we roll as entrepreneurs is we jump first and then build the plane on the way down. Right after we jump, like, oh, well, how do you build a wing? And we better hurry, figure this out, right? So, So we've done all the back end work and all the content stuff, but the marketing piece we've always kind of been struggle bus. And so our course never really took off, but we've had probably 20 people go through the course, and 100% of them has communicated that they've had major life transformation. Wow. So, like, we know the content works and is valuable. We've just never promoted it with, attending big audience or whatever. So then what we did was, just to streamline it, because again, we're kind of solopreneurs, it's just me and my wife, we decided to absorb the course into a membership. So now I've got the podcast, right, EQ Gangster, and our website, eqgangster.com, and the YouTube channel, and our social media stuff. And then we also have, I do corporate coaching. So I've got a $300 million company where I coach their top 9 executives, the C-level folks, and the CEO. And then I've got a $4 billion company that I'm coaching some of their top leaders with, and then another $10 million company, smaller company, I'm working with some of their staff. And so a corporate coaching business, and then our membership. And our membership has got 100 hours of video content, video lessons. It's got workbooks in there. And then it's also, we go live twice a month to do a Zoom group training coaching session. And one of those 2 live Zooms a month, we bring in a SME, an outside expert who's an expert on, emotional health, emotional intelligence, boundaries, triggers, being alone, how to deal with emotions, how to deal with relationships, parenting, emotionally intelligent parent, right? Whatever the topics are, we bring in SMEs once a month to really add value. So anyway, that's kind of what we're up to now. And then we do speaking engagements. There's a Christian camp that I'm working with their staff.
Awesome.
They asked us to come in and do a couple marriage sessions, marriage retreat in there. So we're talking about that as well. So a lot of different things.
That's great. I love that story too, of just kind of how you started and just kind of seeing the hole in the gap. I feel like I'm planning to release this in a group of guest interviews that I have coming out in 2022. So this would be probably like January, February timeframe that people are hearing this. But I feel like it's been a thing lately that I've been talking to people who have started either ministries or missions or companies or, movements. And the story that I hear often that I really relate to that you shared there is, I see that this is transformational for me. I think, I have this boldness to believe that I'm not the only person that's struggling with this, and maybe me sharing my experience and what I've learned will actually help other people. And then not only that, right? Because a lot of people do that. There's a lot of people who struggle with something, right? And then there's a decent number who actually overcome that thing or at least grow in it. And then there's even less number that actually say, well, maybe I'm not alone. Maybe I should do something to help other people. But then the very small percentage actually take an action step and make something or create something to actually, practically help other people.
Well, bro, you ready for this? I don't think you're ready for this, Ranger. Are you ready for this, bro? You check this out, bro. Boom, you ready? What? Pow! So I know this is a podcast, but if you were
put
able
it on YouTube as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Okay.
So they can go to YouTube and see it.
All right. So I got a tattoo right here on my hand, and it's a present, a gift, like a Christmas present, and it's on fire. So it's all kind of engulfed in flames. And then I've got on my knuckles 2T1, 6, and 7, which is 2 Timothy 1, 6, and 7, which is fan into flame the gift that God has given you. Verse 7, for God has not given us a spirit of timidity or fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And I've heard that verse I'm in my 3rd quarter of my life. I've heard that for most of my life. But because I've never been emotionally healthy until a few years ago, I've never been able to own that verse, that passage, because I would always self-sabotage and say, well, I was the Matthew 25, 14 to 30 guy, parable. That's the entrepreneur chapter in the Bible, just FYI, where the entrepreneur, he went on vacay to Miami, or maybe he came out of Colorado, right? And right, you know what I'm saying, snowboarding, and had 3 employees, and 2 of employees, one employee 5 talents, another guy 2 talents, the third guy 1 talent. I feel like my whole life I've been the 5 talent guy, but I've behaved like the 1 talent guy. I've buried my 5 talents in the backyard because I've been afraid.
Wow.
right? And fearful and people pleaser addict. And literally the whole reason we've been able to do any of this stuff is because God has been healing me in the area of my emotions. And now I'm really excited to bring the gifts that God's given me, those 5 talents, to bear to the world to make the world a better place.
Dang. That's bomb, dude. I love it. It's so cool to see. I remember you getting that tattoo. Jason actually explained it to me because I think I saw it in one of your videos or something like that. Maybe a photo, I think it was the new branding photos. And I saw him like the next week. And I was like, no, we got a new tat. And he was explaining to me. And I was like, man, that's awesome. So love, love to hear it. That's so cool, man. I love it. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about, we have a kind of a long list of a jumbled amount of things, which I think is really great because I'd love to kind of hit on a bunch of different topics. And then you have podcasts that people can go back and I can link some of those episode numbers and things like that in the description. And if people want to go check out and go deeper into it with you, they can do that. But you just brought up one. So I feel like it's a great place to start, which is people pleasing. And I've been thinking about doing an entire podcast myself on this because interestingly enough, like I've always felt like I've erred on the other side. Like I did a podcast actually recently that was like, why do I curse so much? And one of my fundamental messages in that was like, I generally don't give a shit what most people think, and really, I think that comes from, I was listening to your podcast on boundaries that you released recently. And you were talking about that. And I think it is a healing, right? And it's a Christian way of living where you're not super swayed either by people's praise or by their criticism, right? But yeah, tell me about just some general thoughts on people pleasing, and then I'll ask some follow-up questions and stuff like that.
So if you had asked me, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, hey Noble, are you a people pleaser? I'm like, hell no. Are you kidding me? I'm not. I live to serve the Lord. I love Jesus, and everything I do is to fulfill the Lord's work. And I gave you all the church answers, right? I could give you, bro, all of them. And oh man, wow, Noble, really, she must be this holy roller guy, like this guy, Bible thumper. No, dude. I was smoking crack, bro. I was, and my crack was people, and I had no idea, dude. I had no idea.
I met you as a crackhead.
You met me as the people crackhead, bro. I was the people crackhead, bro, trying to get my snort on.
That's right.
Every day, trying to get validation and approval from everyone around me, and I had no idea, dude. And if you're not a people pleaser addict, you may think, man, this guy's really crazy. And I was, dude. I was legit. Like, there was not a decision that I made for the majority of my life that was not an attempt to make somebody else happy and to make somebody else like me. Right now, here's what's crazy. This is crazy right here, bro. Something I did not realize until later. This was totally ground my gears. Is that people pleasers are manipulators. And I can't stand a manipulator.
That's right.
Based on the business cult that I was in for, 20 plus years. And so when I found out that as a people pleaser, I'm also a manipulator, oh man, you want to talk about, dude, I was really, dude, I was doing some soul searching because again, I can't stand people that manipulate other people, especially for selfish gain, and that's exactly what a people pleaser addict does.
Yeah, and so becoming the villain that you hated.
But boom, 100%. So not only was I the victim of a manipulator, hardcore manipulator, and a whole narcissistic organization. Not only was I the victim, but I was also the abuser. Right, I played both roles. Right. But again, I had no awareness of any of it because I was emotionally clueless. So, and what's happened is, as a result of me getting healthier emotionally and adopting a consistent, regular emotional fitness program, my desire to please others, dude, it hasn't gone away because God is like, oh, dude, Noble, why did you say that? Or why did you do that?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, crap. Right, it's still so I'm not going to say I'm 100% healed from it, but I'm probably 95% healed from my people pleasing addiction. Dude, the other dynamic about people pleasing addiction that I didn't realize is how exhausting it is.
Oh,
dude, it is. I can
imagine, yeah.
Because I'm constantly like, oh, how do I make Nathan like me? How do I make him happy? How do I make? And who's the next person I'm talking to? Oh, how do I make Susie like me? How do I make? is freaking exhausting, and
Right.
it's also not biblical, right? It's completely, that's not like, I put people as my idol right up there next to God, and that's God's like, hey, McFly, dude, I don't share this platform with anybody.
Right. And
You know what
easily
I'm
your
saying?
ratios are always off of how much are you thinking about trying to please God in your life, how much you're trying to think about pleasing people. It's like it's unbelievably lopsided, right? When you get into that place of just constantly thinking about, well, what's this person going to think and what are people going to think? And it's something that is so interesting to me because I've had these debates, especially like oftentimes, and you probably had the same experience a lot of times with Christians and tattoos, right? Like I remember certain times of getting tattoos in my family or people I've dated, women I've dated or things like that, or just kind of like this in this like, well, what are people going to think, as you get more and more ink or you get, and it's like, I like my only check that I did before I got my tattoos was does the Catholic Church in my view, I did like my research and like looked up priests on YouTube and said, does the Catholic Church say that it's a sin? Is it biblically a sin? Like what does the Bible say about it? And then I went and said, well, what do I want? And once it was a no, it was like, well, what do I want to get? You know what I mean? Like, what are my guidelines? And then it was like, what do I want to get? And that was it. That was the consulting that was done, right? It was like the church and then me, and it was like there's no need to worry about what is everybody else going to think or whatever, But like the number of people who I knew know that and understand that the church is not against tattoos. Obviously, there's specific things, right? I'm not going to get some satanic symbol all over my chest, but at the same time, people who know that the church is not against tattoos, but still were super concerned about me getting them. And I'm like, something's wrong with your perspective there, or your, you know what I mean? Like your prioritization doesn't add up to me.
Well, it's where do any of our beliefs come from, and then typically, almost by definition, a belief has within the package of X belief a whole host of emotions attached to said belief, and most people don't know why we believe what we believe. We don't know the corresponding emotions that are attached to that respective belief,
Right.
and as a result of all that stuff, it's like, well, what is, for me, what does God say about it? What is the biblical right? What does God say about it? And then and here's another nuance. For me, is it a salvation issue? Is it a salvation issue? Is it because we can all pick the thing that, well, because I don't cuss, and I do, but because I don't cuss, I can say, well, Nathan, you shouldn't cuss. Well, okay, but Noble, why are you fat, bro? Right? Is being fat biblical? Am I supposed to be fat? Well, my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit, right? So since you're all jacked and you got all those muscles and stuff, you could say, well, Noble, why are you fat, bro? Your body's God's right. So like that's what we do, right? As people, is like we like to divide and we like to, oh, I'm holier than thou. Screw that,
Right.
dude. For me, is this a salvation issue? Does God still love me? And am I, if I get a tattoo, am I going to hell? And now I don't speak, I haven't learned how to read Aramaic and Greek, but I'm pretty sure there's nowhere in the Bible, and I've read it cover to cover a few times. It doesn't say that if I get a tattoo, I'm going to hell, right? So, and again, it's not about the tattoos, but beliefs and emotions and stuff. There's a lot, dude, and a lot of Christians, right? Me, right? Heck, there's a lot of us that our theology is jacked up from the floor up, bro. Right? And then how much of it is just a church idea, but it's not biblical? And not to knock the church, but dude, there's a lot of churches, bro, that believe some screwed up stuff that's not
Sure.
even based in God's word. That because most people don't know God's word, well, whatever you say, Bishop, Reverend, Deacon Crankfield, whatever you say, it's like, well, McFly, I don't care what your title is. Show me in the Bible where it says that, and then let me process it myself. But if you can't give me a Bible verse, bro, you can pound sand.
Sure. That's amazing. Yeah, no, I think it's so important. And you get to see kind of the checklist, I guess you could say, people go through before they make decisions. And it goes exactly back to the example you gave of this person and that person. I have to think about what this person is going to do. And I'm obviously experiencing a lot of that with wedding planning as a huge part of seeing that, right? With all these different ideas and things we're going to do, and what are people going to think, and what are people going to say, and what's this cousin going to be upset about because we invited that cousin or the kids, and there's all these different things. And It's really, it's funny in those like bigger decisions where you get to kind of see things being played out. But the one thing I love too is you talking about like people pleasing is not biblical. The thing that gets me the most about it is like we're supposed to be a church that's like ready to be martyrs, right? Like we're, as Christians, we're called to at least be ready to be martyrs and to die to ourselves in specific ways. And this is such like, it's such an easy one, right? To like stand up for the truth and like have people either make fun of you or kind of get mocked or just do things or stand in line with your conscience and what you feel like is your well-formed conscience. And people that are just constantly people pleasing it and not fulfilling, not using their talents, not using their gifts, not fulfilling their life's purpose and mission for the sake of pleasing other people, and how little of a way that is to be a martyr, just to have somebody be mad at you or disappointed in you, and how unwilling we are to do that. How can God ever have confidence in us to be willing to like actually lay down our lives should we face violence and persecution someday?
Bro, such an excellent point. Such an excellent point. Excellent. 1 John 2:6, whoever claims to live in him must walk as Jesus did. Well, how did Jesus roll? Like the dude was tortured, he was beat, he was eventually crucified. And how did he deal with that? How did he suffer? Right? Hebrews 12:1 is another. Hebrews 12:1 and 2 is another really good one. Hebrews 12:11. No discipline seems painful at the time. Seems pleasant at the time, but painful.
Yeah.
Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who've been trained by it. James 1:2-12, bro. That's like the suck it up chapter right there. James 1:2-12. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds. And again, in true dirty underwear leadership here, how well do I suffer? Do I consider it pure joy when I suffer? Right. Heck, no, dude, I have not done a good job at something, right? So to your point, that's an excellent point. We all, if you love Jesus, man, you need to be mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually prepared to suffer well.
Absolutely. And you see, if you read scripture, especially if you read the gospels, like Jesus was not a people pleaser, right? Like Jesus wouldn't have done how many of the things that he did. Emily and I love the Chosen TV series, and I think it does a great job of kind of portraying a lot of those things, like the apostles eating the grain on the Sabbath, picking and eating the grain on the Sabbath. Like he knew that would piss people off, right? Like he literally did things intentionally that he knew would piss not just people, but like the Pharisees and Sadducees, the big wigs, right? Like the people that like people were afraid of, and people were nervous, and people really wanted to impress and look pious and holy in front of. They wanted to conform in front of those people, and he did the exact opposite, and actually, literally, intentionally did things that would make them very, very upset.
Jesus was a disruptor, bro. He was right. The people. Check this out. Think about this. The people that dude fought with the most, that he had an IFF with, intense family fellowship, the most, were the OGs of the church, bro.
Right.
They were the church leaders, the PhDs, the bishops and deacons and reverends and whatever other church names we come up with. That is who Jesus threw down with the most, were religious people. And he was a disruptor. Like, no, guys, McFly, it's not about the you know what I'm saying, the rules and regulations and stuff. We are not under the law anymore. We're under grace. And Romans talks about, so now that we're not under the law, we're under grace, does that mean we sin more? And he's like, no, of course not. But the fact is, we're not under the law anymore. We should be obedient out of love for the relationship with the Lord, not out of fear of consequence over the law.
Absolutely. And I think what kind of goes into that too, where we see that get really distorted a lot of times in today's world. And this is kind of goes to one of the other things we wanted to talk about, or I wanted to talk about today, is this like manipulation you see a lot of times from the world today, of this like warped vision of Jesus, right? Where it's like, would Jesus do that? Would Jesus be on here, especially in the political realm. I feel like it comes up all the time in that realm where it's like, would Jesus say something? I mean, I get criticized all the time because like if as somebody who tries to share faith-based messages and things like that on social media or whatever, if I ever like remotely joke or do anything that I think is like kind of funny, that was actually where the Why Did I Curse So Much podcast kind of came out of this, because I was like, I like to call people hoes and stuff when they're being soft, and I figured you'd like that. And I was talking about like challenging yourself to like be a good financial steward, right? And so often people are just like, it's hard to imagine Jesus calling people hoes, or Jesus like challenging people or being derogatory in the way. And I'm like, everybody gets so easily offended now that like, one, we don't recognize like Jesus flipped tables with people, called people names. Maybe he wouldn't call people a hoe. I think you can make a philosophical argument towards that, but he did at least call people names that they do not want to be called, right? Like he did, go pretty aggressive at times. And not just that, but we have tons of saints, throughout history of Christianity who I always use St. Nicholas as an example. There's a great story of him slapping the hell out of a heretic, a few centuries back, and it's a great tale. But I'm like, we forget that like that type of thing is necessary at times, and just how bold and uncomfortable the truth can be. But how often do we see Christians falling into so many of these like leftist progressive ideas and ideologies, because it's like, well, Jesus would want people to be like, if you won't say that a man can be a woman, like that's not very loving and caring, is that what Jesus would say? And it's like, yeah, he did say that. He already did say that.
Bro, I read a book, man. I don't remember what. No More Christian Nice Guy is the name of the book. No More Christian Nice Guy.
Sounds like a book I'd enjoy.
Oh, dude, it is gangster, bro. And I got so I'm in Matthew 23 right here, and this is the heading, bro. This is the heading, bro. Now, I'm in the New King James Version. I know some people like freak out. Oh my gosh, that's not the King James. Dude, again, pound sand. Okay, so woe to the scribes and Pharisees, dude, is the title. Woe, like woe to the scribes. Again, in the church, who were these people? These are the OGs, bro. This is Run DMC. This is NWA. This is cool. I mean, this is Eric B and Rakim. These are the OGs, bro. Okay, and he starts off. So he gets going. He kind of gets warmed up, right? He gets warmed up a little bit, but then, verse 13. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, and then he rips on them. Verse 15. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! And then he rips on them. Verse 16. Woe to you, blind guides! Also talking about the Pharisees and Sadducees.
Yep.
Imagine you telling I don't know all the Catholic ninja rank structure, but imagine going up to
bishop, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Go up to your cardinal ninja bishop guy and say, woe to you, blind guide, right? And this guy in this No More Christian Nice Guy book, he's like, dude, the verbiage that Jesus used back in that time is the equivalent of MFing the guys, right? Like, he was not, oh, you kind, nice, loving,
yeah.
caring.
Maybe you should rethink,
He throat punched these guys, bro.
Right.
He's straight. Hey, Jesus was hairy, dude. This guy has some testosterone, man. Now, I can't prove that, but I'm just telling you. The dude had, you know what I'm saying? His intestinal fortitude, bro.
It was serious.
Bro, when you call out and listen, dude, this is the nation of Israel, bro. In the nation of Israel, these are the OGs. This was not like, oh, just as well, dude. Again, having the stones, bro, the intestinal fortitude to be calling out the church gangsters,
yep,
like it was nothing but a thing, like a chicken wing on a string of Burger King. Bro, Jesus is no joke, man.
Yeah,
he is not. You know what I'm saying?
And I think, yeah, we lose that so much. And I think from the Catholic perspective, it's something that can be highly debated of challenging priests, of challenging bishops. And I think one thing that has to be a caveat to that is that Jesus obviously was the Son of God, and he did this with a lot of prayer, right? And so he wasn't just going around slanging things at anybody that he disagreed with. He was very well formed. He's obviously the Son of God. He was doing all this with a lot of prayer, which is really important to recognize. But the concept or the idea that you never challenge a pastor, you never challenge a priest, or that they're 100% right all the time is absolute nonsense. And the idea that we don't challenge each other, or that we're not bold in correcting each other and things like that, is not loving.
Bro, here's 100% love it. So you brought in some great wisdom in there. Are we, as people who love Jesus, just supposed to start there out there throwing, throwing Bibles?
People who are rude and violent in the name of the Lord, which is also very wrong. You know what I mean?
100%, 100%. And yes, thank you for what do you call it? Sandwiching what I said there. Yeah, are we supposed to just go around and start throw punching people in the name of Jesus? No, obviously, of course not.
Right.
Jesus was not a wuss either, and Jesus,
right.
He was about two things, right? Boom, going back to the ink, right? He was about truth, capital T truth, and he was about grace, right? He was about both. He was 100% truth and 100% grace, and yeah. So anyway, here, and going back to your manipulation thing, this is where I got off track. There is that the danger with any type of rank structure, and I don't care what the organization is, church or not, people, what is that? That quote, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Mm-hmm. It is very easy for, as humans, look at the last 2,000-3,000 years, however many thousand years, people in power can go stupid very, very quickly. Yeah. And I don't care what rank they are, what title they have, you are a human being just like Big Papi, and don't think that now, finally, for the first time in my life, I'm gonna play the, oh, you're a higher rank game than me, so no. If now I am much more aware and dialed into, because before I would be blinded by rank and authority and titles,
right?
And that because you're a captain, a major, a colonel, a general, or a pastor, bishop, reverend, deacon, oh, you must, no, dude. Listen, we've all seen it, right? We've all seen people in power take a face plant. So I will absolutely consider what you say. I will process what you say, and I will evaluate it against what, God's word, and that is how I'm going to do my how I process information for me personally.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important not to get to that celebrity status and just blind following, and the people who are entrusted to those, because obviously there is spiritual leadership and there is importance to that, even like within the home, right? Obviously, like parents and kids and things like that, and you do need obedience, and we need to learn how to follow and to be good leaders. But I think it is so important to always keep that in mind, right? To always just remember that people are flawed, that there's times where like it doesn't violate God's word, and somebody who you're following, you're listening to, or your boss or whatever tells you to do things you don't like, and it's not a violation of your conscience. And sometimes you have to do things you don't like to do, right? And you have to follow and do things that aren't obviously objective or objecting to God's moral law, but you might not prefer or care for. It doesn't mean to be completely obstinate to people. I know that's not what you're saying. I'm just clarifying, and kind of giving some context around it as well. But I think within all of that, always, the gangster part that I think that either in EQ or in the church of the world that I try to embody, that I've learned a lot from you, is just like never get to the point where you're just completely blindly following and just whatever somebody says goes. And it's really just not about getting to that like celebrity status of somebody where they're just like so high that you think that you put them in the place of God, where it's like you are almighty and you can do whatever you want, and I'm just going to follow it and do it and say it. That place is reserved for God.
Well, and it's like
it has to be everybody else.
It's like the other point that you had written down there before we got started is the government.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next. So
the government and the media. Do you honestly think and I don't care what your flavor of politics is. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're libertarian. I don't care what your flavor is. If they are media, if you don't think that they have an agenda, you are smoking crack, bro. If you don't think it's a business, it's a business. And what's good for business? Emotions are really, really good for business. And because of the emotional immaturity of so many people, it is so easy to stoke the fire. Let me drop in the emotionally charged, oh, Nathan, you're a racist. Say what? Dude, are you call, what? Right. And so now we're fighting. Oh, that's great for TV. Are you kidding? Yep. Drama, dude, drama is great for business, right? And then what's one of the most powerful emotions of all, and how you can control, I mean, dude, nations, millions and millions of people, like, fear is an amazing control mechanism, amazing control, powerful tool. And so if I can create fear in your life somehow, bro, I can play you like a freaking puppet. Yep. And the other thing too is, dude, well, anyway, so I'll get fired up. So yes, that's the thing, is like, that's why I'm stoked about Kathy, right? My wife starting this podcast
really reading my mind.
Right. I've learned how to think. It's like, yeah. And here's the power of the media and deception, right? Let's talk about the OG of deception, Big Satan, right?
Yep.
The power of deception is, let's go to, what? We're about to get our preach on, bro. What? Dude, Matthew chapter 4, 1 through 11. Matthew chapter 4, 1 through 11. Unbeknownst to you, bro, that's UFC. That was UFC like 2 or 3, right? Because UFC 1 was like Jacob and when Jacob was wrestling with the angel of the Lord, right? Well, UFC 2's Jesus was going up against Satan when Satan came to tempt Jesus, right? Yep. And dude, Satan tempted Jesus 3 times. 1 out of the 3 times, Satan used God's word. Mm-hmm. Well, so the argument can be made, well, isn't God's word true? Jesus, I mean, it is written. This is how Satan started off.
It says you won't get hurt, man.
It's written. Like, I'm just saying what you said, Jesus. Like, yeah. This is your word, bro. Like, what's that? Right?
Yeah.
There's in deception, there's always a kernel or seed of truth. Mm. Right? So now you can, and as human beings, we are masters at perverting truth and manipulate, right? And for our own gains, for our pride, our insecurities, our validation, our approval, right? Fill in the blank. And so that's what makes deception so powerful, is there's always a little element of truth. Again, whether you're CNN, whether you're Fox, whether you're libertarian, whether, again, whatever the flavor is, that's the power of deception. And that's why it's so important, again, to get control of your emotions, so that emotions inform us, not control us. And so we can have the tools to learn how to think critically and clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many things to respond to there, but 100%. And I think, the title, of Kathy's show, Filtered Through a Brain Cell, is really what's so needed in today's world, obviously. But when you think about the people who don't recognize that the media has an agenda, or even that great example of Satan using scripture, right? Like, if the Lord was one of many people who are alive today that hears something like that, right? A temptation like that, the answer is just like, oh yeah, you're right. Let me just go ahead and jump off. You know what I mean? Like, let me go ahead and just dive into this, because there's not a second to like pause and think. And it's something that I think was so instilled in me in Ranger School and in IBOLIC, right? In my infantry training, and the same stuff you went through. And I'm interested to hear if you feel the same way. It's just like the need in the midst of chaos, right? Like, like when you're a squad leader, or you're the platoon leader out in that patrol, right? When like you receive contact and like shit's going wild, right? There's loud sounds and there's all the RD sims, or if for people who have actually been downrange, probably experience this even further, or experience combat downrange, I should say. But like when you have that moment, just the training to be able to stop and think, right? And think, what do I need to do next, right? And it's the same thing. We jumped out of planes, right? And you're twisted, you're all jacked up. Like you think back to your training, which should ideally be your faith formation, right? And your conscious and your moral guide and your ability to reason. And you say, oh, I have twists. That's why I can't lift my head up. I know I need a bicycle kick, reach up and pull the things down with my thumbs down, right? Like you remember these things and sometimes you kick in the action, but just taking a second and not freaking out and just thinking, it's like unbelievable. That's why I love the title, Filtered Through a Brain Cell, because that's all that it takes is just take a moment and think about this.
100%.
Make a decision,
100%, bro.
People just rush. It's just emotions. They're moved to action and they just rush. They run to their corners or whatever side, CNN or whatever told them to be in, or the president or whoever it is, and it goes the same thing for hard Trump believers who defended everything he's ever said or done. And then you got the hard Biden defenders who defend anything he's ever said or done, which is just wild to me how people do that.
It's fascinating. But here's what you just described, being emotionally hijacked. When we are emotionally hijacked, right. Another analogy I use is I call it getting an emotional Charlie horse. When you get locked up in a certain state and you can't, I've got some family members, bro. Dude, you mentioned the T word. You mentioned Trump. Bro, listen, I am not even joking. They lose their mind. It's like, how could you say the name of Satan out loud? Like
he who should not be named.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, bro. It's like a psychosis. It's unbelievable, bro.
Right, it is wild.
But that's the power of emotions and getting emotionally hijacked, right? Just hey, I won't say names, but hey, so and so, I played the trumpet today. Did you say Trump? I heard Trump. You said, oh my God,
it's not through there. Yep.
I'm gonna throw the Trump card. You said Trump. Oh my God, right? And so, you know what I mean? And so, but again, that's the power of allowing ourselves. So that's what happens when you have people that either are self-aware or not. But that part is not necessarily the point. They have no self-management skills. They have no emotional control skills and emotional management skills. And so now I can just start, me as the media, again, Fox, CNN, wherever camp you fall in, conservative, liberal, whatever, I can just start playing I can control you like a puppet. Literally, It's all I do is I feed your emotions, and because you have no emotional management skills, you just run with it. Oh, well, Fox said this, and it's got to be the gospel, or CNN said this, and it's got to be the gospel, or the administration, whoever is in the office at the time, it's got to be the gospel, and it's just not the case. So just learning these emotional management skills and thinking skills, I think, are just so important.
Right, and I think it's important to recognize something that I constantly try to share with people as I've gotten more and more conservative and share a lot of conservative viewpoints, is that everybody needs to recognize that those people exist on both sides, and we don't realize how much damage is done from our side by the people who are like that on our side, right? So like how many liberals and leftists who I ardently disagree with have had horrible experience with people who are pro-life, but like violently pro-life and are just like rude and hateful and all these things, right? Or they're, with some of these people, I think one area that I like to criticize the conservatives for sometimes is also the like police shootings, right? With unarmed Black people. And sometimes not even police. Like I think Ahmaud Arbery is a good example that I often use of, I think Mike Brown, I never understand how Mike Brown and Ahmaud Arbery are put in the same situation, right? Or even George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, like these, or Breonna Taylor, like all these circumstances, all the situations are so different, right? And like you have like a Mike Brown who literally was like charging and attacking an officer and then gets killed, and like he's held up as the hero. Then like Ahmaud Arbery was literally running by himself and like accused or thought of by other civilians to be somebody who was breaking into somebody's property days before, and they were trying to make a citizen's arrest, end up shooting it. Like that is absurd to me. And I was really grateful of how many conservatives came out and said, another day of justice when his killers were convicted. But you still had so many conservatives that just like run to their corners, right, and hide, and are just like, no, every time it like that was wrong, that was social pressure. And it's like, no, dude, that was on video. I watched the shit, like I watched it on video. But you see people, they do the same thing that the liberals do, of immediately saying like the cops should go to prison, and it's like, why don't we just see what the facts are?
Yeah, 100%. But they can't. Most people, again, they don't think for themselves. They get emotionally hijacked.
Yep.
Right, and which locks them up. And what happens is, dude, I love this analogy. So I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing it for 4 years now, and I'm a kind of a relatively new kind of blue belt, whatever. And there's a dynamic that we call the white belt spaz, and the white belt spaz is typically within the first 3 to 6 months is typically how long that lasts. Is they will because it's jiu-jitsu, right? Is combat cuddling, and doing laundry with the people still in them, folding laundry with the people still in them, right? And so what happens is, because it's one-on-one combat, whatever, one-on-one grappling, what kicks in is their fight, flight, or freeze mode. Now, because they're doing jiu-jitsu, their fight mode kicks in, and dude, let's say 95% of white belts that I have experienced do the white belt spaz. I did the white belt spaz, where you just get in there and they lock up, they hyperventilate, their eyes get real big, and they're just spazzing. And I tell them, and any of the white belts that I've rolled with, they tell you it's a running joke. Noble is the relaxed guy. He's going to whisper in your ear to relax, right?
Really?
And I do, right? I'm like, guys, stop. Just stop, bro. Because what happens is they're emotionally hijacked. And when you get emotionally hijacked, your brain, it's a survival mechanism. Your brain only goes to one course of action, is the only thought. And it's all liberals are bad, all conservatives are bad, all whatever's bad, right? And it's this mantra, guys, if you just relax, let's relax.
Yep.
That's right. And now once you control your breathing, you just take some breaths, control your breathing. Now your brain can come out of that locked in state. And this is physiology. This is not Noble's like, oh, this is the newest thing. No, this is physiology. When you allow yourself to calm down and think clearly, you physiologically can start thinking more clearly. Mm-hmm. When your adrenaline is pumping and you're emotionally hijacked, this is, again, true story. This is not Noble stuff. This is science. You actually get dumber.
Right.
You actually get dumber because your brain is in fight or flight mode. It's only thinking about one thing, and it cannot think clearly or logically about anything else because you're all spun up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy. Like one thing that I'll at least give the point. I feel like you've done a great job of remaining neutral. I don't generally stay neutral on these things, but I think one point that I'll at least give the liberals is this: at least liberals talk about the need to have safe spaces, and they kind of admit to just being easily emotionally overwhelmed, right? And they're very outraged and like all these things, and they defend looting and rioting, right? But like for conservatives to condemn that and then still do the same thing and get as emotionally hijacked and be like, that doesn't make any sense. You can't be as sensitive as the people you try to make fun of for being sensitive. Like you got to have that kind of thick skin that can at least stop and be like, okay, I might not like the outcome of this situation, but what were the facts? Can I learn about this? Can I actually reason my way through this? And then there is such thing as righteous anger, right? There is, like, emotions are not bad, but just being able to take a second and think, not ignoring your emotions forever, not suppressing them and acting like they don't exist, but to just also use your reason, like don't let them just absolutely trump your reason. And I think one of the biggest things, I want to bring this up too, which hopefully this probably just get us banned on YouTube. We won't get the podcast will be suppressed. But I got an argument with he's the board, he's the chair of the board of my gym. I got an argument with him in the steam room about the vaccine. And it was like, dude, the reason I want to bring it up, it was the most like textbook gaslighting I've ever experienced. Top 5, right? And we've had some people that have done some pretty good gaslighting, but this was like top 5. Like I was like, this should be like in a psychology book. And I was telling them about these. I had seen it like 2 days before, right? Like It was a compilation of tweets that I remember seeing last October, November, December from like leading Democrats. Either they were celebrities or they were actual politicians, or like congressmen and women, rappers, whatever, whoever it was, sharing tweets that were like, "Good luck to all you Trumpers who are taking this rushed vaccine because you're all going to be growing third eyes and all this shit," right? Like he was like, "You're going to be losing." Yeah, like I would never take this, all these things. And then it's the same vaccine, right? Biden gets elected, gets put into office, and everybody's like, "If you don't take this vaccine, you're the worst person that ever exists." And I was telling them about that. I was like, wouldn't that at least give you some cause for concern that people just switched completely based on political party and who was elected, even though it's the same vaccine, all these things? And he's like, that didn't happen. And he's like 60 or 65 or something like that. And I'm like, no, dude, like I just saw the tweets. Yeah, like these are like timestamps. I remember seeing them when they first came out. And he's like, no, dude, that didn't happen.
Right.
And I'm like, what? What
right.
So many things. I'm just like, what do you mean that didn't? And just like the gaslighting these days is wild. We see it with the Kyle Rittenhouse, all these different things where like President Biden tweeted about him, called him a white supremacist. There's no correction about it, whatever. We'll just move on. Just act like it didn't happen.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that is the behavior that is getting modeled to America. And
Right.
and so which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Are we emotionally clueless because of the administration? Well, no, it's not. He's not the reason that our country is so emotionally, immature.
Right.
But definitely it feeds it. It definitely, the immaturity, and again, there's immaturity among a number of the different administrations, in the past recent years. But it feeds it, right? So the immaturity of the administration feeds the immaturity of the nation. The immaturity of the nation feeds the immaturity of the. So it's a cycle there. But it's fascinating, the gaslighting, and that's again, I feel like that's one of the consequences of being emotionally hijacked. Mm-hmm. When you're emotionally hijacked, because we could do a deep dive on this, but this narcissistic organization that we were a part of, that I was a part of for many, many years, they actually cannot allow themselves to see the truth, because it would cause them to question their life's decisions for the past decades. Which would then lead them to either have to change or ignore the truth. So to spare themselves
tough situation to be in.
To spare themselves all of that, I'm just not going to even look at the truth, and I'm going to gaslight you, because I can't even allow myself to entertain another possibility.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's the hard part. I think that's the hardest part of the vaccine debates now with people is exactly that. Like it's a medical decision, right? So if you have any question or doubt that what I did is potentially dangerous, like, and not only did I do it, but especially if I got my kids to do it, or my spouse, I talked my spouse into it, whatever, and something bad happens, and you knew that and prevented it, and I ignored it. And you're telling me that people, like, there was evidence back in October that exactly they can't look at that and be like, yeah, I can accept that. And that's the saddest part to me. I just did a podcast yesterday with a guy, talked about pornography, and I've had I've made this correlation or connection between pornography and birth control, and how a lot of people are we just kind of accepted, like, young boys are watching porn and young girls are on birth control, and nobody gets to actually make an informed decision, of understanding, like, you're not just watching porn. It's not just like some fun, silly thing you're doing. Like, this actually, like, rewires your brain and could cause, like, some serious mental, emotional, and physical damage to your life, and spiritual damage, obviously.
That's right.
The same thing with birth control. Like, there's not the side effects and negative things, like, never talked about. Like, it's not presented to parents. It's just like, this is just what you need to do to fix, just a band-aid for whatever thing your young daughter might be going through. We're just going to put her on this and it's going to fix it. Not knowing and talking about the side effects and negative things. It's the same thing with this. And this is the frustrating part for me, is that you can't actually make an informed decision about the vaccine because of the fact that, like, everything is suppressed, everything is silenced, everything is canceled that says anything contrary to what the agenda is. And it's like, that's the frustrating part for me, because I'm like, maybe I would get it if we could just have somebody debate it, if we could just have two doctors talk about it.
Which is a red flag by itself, right? Exactly. So that's a red flag for me. If and again, I don't care
a
what
massive one. Like I that's why I don't ever fault people who get the vaccine because I can understand logically why somebody would get it. I don't
right,
understand people who have no question or no idea or can't comprehend why somebody would doubt
right,
or
for
question it.
sure, right, and the fact that yeah, so I'm with you. Get the vaccine, don't get the vaccine. I don't care what you do, but if you silence me because I have a different opinion than you, dude, that's a red flag to me, right?
It's very
That's
concerning.
a major minor detail.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to have a discussion or conversation about whether to have the vaccine or not have the vaccine, that is a massive red flag. And then when not only you but the entire media empire and business empire and government empire all do the same thing and cancel whoever thinks, believes, researches differently, dude, that's massive red flag to me. Like I was born at night, but not last night. Uh, and I'm not even a conspiracy guy.
Right.
But
Yeah, that's
when
what I always say. Me neither. And it's like you seem like one, right? Like you turn into one overnight, and everybody kind of becomes that because it's like I mean, this guy. I see him in the gym all the time now. Like the faces he makes all these different comments, and I'm just like, dude, like how can you not question some of these things? How are you not concerned by some of the messaging and things that have been going on? Like I know some of my most liberal friends are like, yeah, they just F this whole thing up. Like if you want people to get vaccinated the way they've done it, it's just horrific. And I'm like, why can't we just acknowledge that? Like, why can't we just as a people say that you really blew this? And yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how it all plays out. But that I appreciate you breaking that down because you put in that kind of dichotomy that people get forced into if they actually acknowledge the whole circle, especially after your decision was made. But I mean, the business example that that you talked about that we were in, like people have made that decision for years. It's even harder. And so that just tells you even more that the more people, once they get boosted and then they get their second booster, then they're on the pills for COVID, like they're just going to get more entrenched in this and be more unwilling to look at reality. And we just need people. And I'm really grateful. And I've been sharing this with a lot of friends recently, that I'm just so grateful for how many people are going to be. I think it's effed up in a lot of ways how they're going to like change the definition of vaccinated to like, do you have your most recent booster? But I think it's going to be great because less people that are vaccinated now are going to get boosters. And then when it's 6 months later, even less people are going to get boosted again. And we're going to have more people join this kind of like unvaccinated crowd, which again, I'm not against people getting the vaccine. But I think what the importance of that is, as you can't keep, you might be able to take privileges from even half up to half the population. But once you get to 3/4 or whatever, like people aren't going to be about this bullshit anymore. And they're going to start to kind of, more people that were kind of entrenched before are going to start to look at the full picture and be like, when does this end? When does it stop? And I think they have no like intelligence to actually like stop at a decent point. They can't, they're too greedy. So they're going to just keep going and self-destruct. That's my hope.
bro, I mean, and I'm not super dialed into history, but the little teeny bit of history that I do know, when in the history of mankind has anybody ever, once they have power, willingly, knowingly, excitedly give up said power?
Right.
Right. The only scenario I can think of is Big GW, Big George
That's what I was going to say.
Washington.
Yeah. It's the only one I can think of too.
Right. When they asked him, hey, man, you need to be
He's
the
a king.
POTUS. And he's
Yeah.
like, no, bro, I'm going to go back on the old farm and, pull up my soybeans or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But since that time and since that scenario, and not even just America, like
Yeah.
the history of the world, bro, when does the ruling party ever be like, oh, man, I think we need to downsize the government?
Yep.
Whoever does that? No, I don't, and I don't care what party's in charge.
No. Yeah. They both do it. Same thing with spending.
Dude, right? Like,
Both, only one side complains about the spending, but they never do anything to fix it when they're actually there.
dude, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's like, when does the crazy train end? That's the same answer to that question is when are they, and that's the people, whoever's in power, again, regardless of the party, when are they going to give up their power and control over the people?
Right.
And here's another one. Anybody that's in power, do they want more or less power.
Yep.
Again, I don't care what the party is. Put in your own political, I don't care what it is. When you've got power, do you want more power or do you want less power? What do you want, more money or do you want less money? Who has ever? Oh yeah, I don't want more money. You know what I'm saying? So we're fighting against a deep-seated human flaw, in my opinion. That again, when you have no emotional management, is unbridled.
Right.
Is unbridled, and we've seen in history what the extremes of unbridled human greed and power can look like. It can be brutal.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. It's so interesting. It is. And I think the only time that you see that end is when the people finally have enough and fight back against it. Right. Like that's the foundings of America. And that's the only thing that gives me hope is the American spirit is still at least somewhat alive. And we are some of the most stubborn bastards to ever live in the same country together. That is for sure. And it gives me hope. Not a ton, but I have some.
Well, dude, I have been shocked. So I'm with you, right? I would love to believe that as well. I've been shocked. I've been, for many years, like, okay, well, when we cross this line, then we're going to stand up.
Yeah.
Well, okay, well, maybe, I guess not, but okay, when we cross this line, oh, definitely. Oh, wow, okay, I guess not. When we cross it, like, dude, there have been so many lines that have been crossed, and we've done nothing.
Yep.
I don't know. Is there? What I'm wondering is there a line?
Yeah.
And again, this is all messed up. This is BS. Well, what are we doing about it? What are you doing about it? What am I doing about it? Like, what are we doing about it? Well, somewhat. Well, I know Nathan will do something about it. Okay,
yeah, it's
cool.
a bystander effect. Yeah, somebody else has got it. Yeah, man, it's so interesting. But I 100% agree. And this has been great, man. So such a great conversation. I love that we went into this so deep into the governmental stuff because we have the 7 pillars of excellence, and I always share with people. I'm like, this social pillar draws so many people away from their faith, which is really tragic. And I think we lose a lot of souls that way. And I think it's because people are emotionally, and it was why I was super liberal. I was Democrat, at 18 and my whole teenage years. And it was all these emotional things, like the emotional manipulation of Black people in this country is unbelievable, especially by the Democratic Party. And we just get like gaslit, and you get lied to and manipulated and controlled. And it's really sad to see the way that it happens. And I think that so many people get drawn into these things for these fake nice Jesus that doesn't exist, and just all this terrible things that draw people into it. But I want to encourage people, if you want to hear more about how we talked about how EQ can affect your spiritual life or your relationships. I know we talked about that a lot on our first podcast together, but you have a ton of great content on all of these different things on your podcast. We'll have to get together again soon because I think we hit like 2 of the 8 bullet points, and we caught up first, which pushed us back to starting to record. But this has been awesome, man. I just want to thank you again for coming on and joining me today.
Thank you, brother, for having me. I always love it. I love you. I thank God for you. So ridiculously inspired by you and proud of you. Just all the awesome things that you're doing. Thanks for who you are and for all the people that you're adding value to with your vision and the things that you're doing with your life, brother. I really appreciate you.
I greatly appreciate that, man. You've been an inspiration of mine for a long time. So it's great to hear. Excited. Everybody keep a lookout for an episode coming with his awesome wife, Kathy Gibbens, will be coming out here soon too. And her podcast should be launched by now. So we can advertise and share that when we post this one as well. But yeah, just super thankful, man. Everybody go to eqgangster.com. You can check out Noble's stuff. I'll be posting and tagging him on social media as his podcast comes out. So very excited, and continue to fight hard and strive to be your best. God bless.